Hello. So I did my presentation on Phineas Gage. I am sure many of you have heard of him, if not all of you. He is known as neuroscience's most famous patient. Before Phineas Gage was the Phineas Gage, he was just a regular guy working on a railroad bed in Vermont in 1848. He was 25 years old when the accident took place. It was a regular day at work. He was doing duty as usual when in an explosion, a tamping iron, which is pictured in that corner, 43 inches long and weighing about 13 pounds, that penetrated Gage's left cheek, tore through his brain, and exited through his skull. And you can see his skull pictured over there too with the damage done to it. It left him blinded in his left eye. And although this is not necessarily proven, he may not have even lost consciousness and was well enough to tell the doctor that day, "Here is business enough for you." So now I'll talk about what I assume a lot of you know about Phineas Gage, and that's his changing personality that happened after his accident. Dr. John Martin Harlow was the doctor to care for Phineas. And the day he met Phineas, he described him as to be in full possession of his reason and free from pain, which is pretty remarkable for just having a pole fly through your brain. Phineas was under Harlow's care for 10 weeks, and while he was recovering, the doctor noticed some changes in the man's personality. People who had known Phineas before the accident described him as hardworking, responsible, and popular with his workers. And over here on the right side is a quote from Dr. John Martin Harlow about Phineas and his changing personality. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the end part, which is the most important, says, "In this regard, his mind was radically changed, so decidedly that his friends and acquaintances said he was no longer Gage." Okay, so after the accident, you see Gage here with his left eye shut, and he's holding the same pole that went through his brain. Months after the accident, Gage did return to work, but the previous employers on the railroad would not give him his old job because they couldn't trust him. So he took various jobs caring for horses, driving stagecoaches, and doing some farm work. For a while, he even worked at a museum, and that's where this picture was taken. He was almost on display for his amazing accident. But little is really known about his years after the injury, except for 11 years after the accident, Gage began experiencing seizures, and he died several months later. And no medical examination was done at the time, but 7 years later, after he died, his body was exhumed so his skull could be studied. And since then, he and his brain have since become the most famous name in neuroscience. So after many years of studying Phineas's brain and recreating scans with new technology, as you can see pictured here, scientists were able to find that the pole passed through the anterior frontal cortex and white matter. And there is uncertainty whether both frontal lobes were affected or just the left side. But they described the damage to be roughly equal to a frontal lobotomy. And in these pictures here, you can see how the pole passed through and what parts it impacted. So why does this matter? Why did I pick Phineas Gage? What is his importance? And one amazing part is that he wasn't even a psychologist. He was a patient, and we know his name, and his name is so important in the history of psychology. And it's among the first evidence suggesting that damage to the frontal lobes can alter important aspects of your personality and affect your social skills. Before Gage, the frontal lobes were really thought to play little role in behavior. And I hinted at something more important, that the brain and mind are one. And as one neuroscience writes, beneath the tall tales and fish stories, a basic truth embedded in Gage's story has played a tremendous role in shaping modern neuroscience, that the brain is the physical manifestation of the personality and sense of self. And that's really a good way to put his importance and think about what change in thought he brought about. Here you'll see a picture of, over on the left side is Dr. Harlow, and here is Phineas's skull in a museum. And over on the right side you have my sources. Thanks!